Number 10. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Is this movie perfect? No, it definitely has some issues, like with the Golden People and Ego not being as interesting as he could have been. Regardless, this is still a really fun movie, and it contains, in my opinion, Chris Pratt's best performance ever. He is so good in this movie. This is a really fun movie with, again, just like the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, incredible effects, great humor, and a killer soundtrack. Number 9. Spider-Man Homecoming. Even though Tom Holland was barely in Captain America Civil War, what little we saw of him was great. So seeing him in his own movie in Spider-Man Homecoming was even better. Tom Holland is really good as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man in this movie, and Michael Keaton is great as the villain, Adrian Toomes, aka the Vulture. It isn't really that great in terms of an action standpoint, but the compelling story and great performances and humor make the movie an overall great experience. Number 8. Black Panther. This movie was awesome. Black Panther is directed by Ryan Coogler, who also directed two other movies that I think are incredible, Fruitvale Station and Creed. Coincidentally, all three movies star Michael B. Jordan. Speaking of Michael B. Jordan, he is just so awesome as Killmonger in this movie. Also great is Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, and, well, pretty much the whole cast is great. This movie was a huge success at the box office and with critics and audiences, and rewatching it, it is really not surprised to see why. Number 7. Guardians of the Galaxy. This is probably the biggest surprise of the MCU for me. I really wasn't expecting this film to be good before watching it, but then watching it, it was incredible. The soundtrack I still listen to this day. The humor never gets old. The characters are always interesting. My only issue with the movie is Ronan the Accuser. He is not an interesting villain at all. Regardless, this movie is still awesome, and James Gunn did a great job writing and directing. Number 6. Thor Ragnarok. The first two Thor movies, while I don't hate them, they aren't really films that I like that much, nor would I rewatch. The third Thor film, however, I really like, and I will definitely rewatch. In fact, I have, for the purpose of making this list. Thor Ragnarok did what the first two Thor films failed to do. They actually sent Thor to an interesting planet with cool alien characters and not just boring old Earth. No offense, fellow Earthlings. Thor the Ragnarok has been criticized for not really taking the serious moments well that seriously and mostly focusing on the humor and having an overabundance of jokes, but I personally didn't mind that much. Thor Ragnarok was awesome. Number 5. The Avengers. The film where we finally got to see all these heroes together for the first time. The Avengers was a success both critically and commercially, and it is not a surprise to see why. This film is very good and very enjoyable. My only issue with the film is that the first half of the movie, it feels a bit long, but the second half totally redeems it. This film still really holds up today and is my 5th favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 4. Avengers Infinity War. Despite the fact that Avengers Infinity War has a lower rating than the Avengers, I think personally I like this film more than because the action is done a lot better, in my opinion, and the emotional stakes are way higher. Obviously, without spoiling anything, there are a ton of emotional moments in this movie that really hit you right in the feels. I'm not going to say anything beyond that because I do not want to spoil anything, since this movie just came out. All I'm going to say is this movie is an absolute blast and gets quite emotional towards the end. Number 3. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America, aka Steve Rogers, was a fine character in all the films before this movie, in the Avengers and in the first Avenger. But in my opinion, it is in the Winter Soldier, the second Captain America movie, where Captain America really became interesting. What's so great about this film is not just the amazing action, it is also the fact that Steve Rogers' ideologies and beliefs are tested, and his views on the world are heavily shaken and altered. This movie is absolutely incredible and deserves high praise for its action sequences and political side. Number 2, Captain America Civil War. The Russo brothers had already done a great job with the Winter Soldier, but I will admit I wasn't sure if they'd be able to pull off the feat a second time with Civil War. Thankfully, they were able to, and for a third time with Infinity War. Captain America Civil War is absolutely incredible because the emotional and political conflict is genuinely interesting and compelling, and the action sequences, of course, are great, and so is the humor. It was really difficult for me to choose a side, Iron Man's side or Captain America's side, because both people on both sides brought up legitimately good and interesting points. This movie is absolutely incredible, and while some people think that it is overrated, I do not think so at all. And my favorite film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far is Iron Man. Iron Man not only started the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but also saved Robert Downey Jr.'s career, and Jon Favreau did a great job directing this movie, and Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is absolutely incredible, hilarious, but also emotional. The only thing that I would say isn't that perfect about this movie is Obadiah Stane, who turns out to be the movie's main villain, but he doesn't ruin in my enjoyment of this film. Iron Man is awesome and is the reason why we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe today.